The night was cold, heavy with silence, broken only by the distant cries of soldiers in pain. In a small military tent on the northern frontier of the Roman Empire, a man sat alone at a wooden table. His cloak was wrapped tightly around his body, but no fabric could shield him from the weight pressing upon his mind. This man was not just any commander, not just any Roman general. He was Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the most powerful empire the world had ever known. Yet, at this moment, he did not feel like a man of power. He felt like a fragile human, battered by fate. Outside, the Antonine Plague ravaged his armies. Men who had once fought bravely with swords and shields now fell helplessly to an invisible enemy. Inside the empire, whispers of rebellion and betrayal echoed, and in his heart, grief gnawed at him, for he had lost children, the woman he loved, and perhaps, in moments like this, even the will to endure. Still, Marcus did not despair. He reached for a wax tablet and stylus. Slowly, deliberately, he began to write, not for the world, not for history, but for himself. He wrote to remind his own soul how to stand unshaken in the storm. These private notes would one day be known as Meditations, one of the greatest works of philosophy ever written. But tonight, they were simply a lifeline, words of survival written in the darkness of despair. This is the story of Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who lost everything, yet taught humanity how to endure. When Marcus Aurelius ascended the throne in 161 AD, he was not the eager young ruler one might expect. He had been a student of philosophy all his life, trained to think deeply, to live simply, and to pursue wisdom above all else. In his heart, Marcus would have been content as a philosopher, living in quiet study, perhaps walking the streets of Athens or debating in a small school of thought. But destiny had chosen otherwise. He was adopted into the imperial family by Emperor Antoninus Pius, and by the time Antoninus died, Marcus was the rightful heir. The crown was heavy, and Marcus felt its weight from the very first day. He knew that emperorship was not glory but burden. Unlike other rulers, Marcus shared power. He made his adoptive brother, Lucius Verus, co-emperor, an unprecedented decision in Roman history. It was not ambition that guided him but duty. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. He would later write, death hangs over you, while you live, while it is in your power. Be good. But Rome was not kind to Marcus. Almost immediately, war erupted on the empire's eastern front. The Parthian Empire, Rome's greatest rival in the east, attacked. And Marcus had no choice but to send Lucius to lead the armies. For a time, victory seemed possible. Roman legions pushed back the Parthians and returned triumphant. But they brought with them a gift darker than any defeat. They carried disease. The plague swept across the empire like wildfire. Some historians believe it was smallpox. Others suggest measles. Whatever it was, it killed without mercy. In Rome, bodies piled up faster than they could be buried. Streets once filled with bustling markets now echoed with the silence of fear. Imagine walking through the capital. Temples abandoned. Theaters empty. The air thick with smoke from funeral pyres. Soldiers collapsed not from wounds but from fever. Families locked themselves in their homes, praying the gods would spare them. For Marcus, the plague was not only a public disaster but a personal torment. He watched his legions diminish, the strength of Rome crumbling from within. Advisors urged him to retreat, to hide, to protect himself, but Marcus refused. He stayed visible, walking among his people, showing them that the emperor did not cower from fate. In his writings, he reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But fate was not done with him. The plague was only the beginning. As if disease and war were not enough, betrayal struck from within. In 175 AD, one of Marcus's most trusted generals, Avidius Cassius, declared himself emperor. Cassius was a skilled commander, beloved by the legions in the east. With a single declaration, the empire was split. Imagine the sting of such betrayal. Marcus had given Cassius command, trusted him with Rome's armies, even praised his abilities. And yet, in his ambition, Cassius turned against the hand that fed him. Rumors spread quickly across the empire. Would civil war erupt? Would Rome tear itself apart? But Marcus remained calm. He prepared to march east, to face the traitor. And then, unexpectedly, Cassius was murdered by his own soldiers before Marcus even arrived. The rebellion ended not with a grand battle, but with a knife in the back. What was Marcus's response? Did he rejoice at his enemy's death? No. Instead, he wept. He ordered that Cassius's family be spared. He refused to execute those who had supported the rebellion. To Marcus, vengeance was not justice. Mercy was the greater strength. He reminded himself of a Stoic truth. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Behind the marble walls of palaces and the iron discipline of armies, Marcus Aurelius was still a man, a husband, and a father. And like all men, he was not spared from the cruel hand of fate. Marcus married Faustina the Younger, daughter of Antoninus Pius, not only as part of political duty but also out of genuine affection. Ancient sources, often hostile and biased, have painted Faustina with suspicion, accusing her of infidelity or betrayal. But the truth is far murkier, lost in the fog of history. What we do know is that Marcus loved her deeply, and together they had many children. And one by one, fate took them away. Imagine being the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man on earth, yet utterly powerless to save your own children. Historians estimate that Marcus and Faustina had at least 13 children, perhaps more. Only a few survived into adulthood. Each death was a dagger to the emperor's heart. He recorded his grief not in public speeches, but in quiet words to himself. To lose a child is a grief few can bear. To lose multiple, over and over, is a burden unimaginable. But Marcus endured, not with cold detachment, not by pretending he did not care, but by reminding himself of the Stoic truth, that everything is borrowed from nature, and must one day return. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. He wrote, "Death hangs over you, while you live, while it is in your power. Be good." When Faustina herself died in 175 AD, Marcus was devastated. He declared her a goddess, building temples in her honor. He kept her memory alive not with denial, but with reverence. And yet, even in grief, he wrote words of calm acceptance. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. But do so with all your heart. Marcus loved, and Marcus lost, but from love and loss, he learned endurance.